So if you've ever been benched, ever been doubted, injured, or overlooked, this episode is for you. Today's guest, Olympic baseball coach Eric Holtz, has lived all of that and still made it to the biggest stage in sports. He walked away from the game, came back in his 30s, recovered from an injury when he was told to stop playing the game, and made it into pro baseball at 41 years old. Not only that, he led a national team to the Olympics. So, Coach Eric Holtz, thank you for hopping on the podcast.
My pleasure, Nick. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, and listeners, like, it's always really cool for me because when I start chatting with somebody to be like, hey, be on the podcast, it's exciting, initially, and then I actually do my research and dig deeper on that person. It's like, holy cow. And so I'm really excited to have Eric on the podcast because there's so many things that you can learn from this guy. And so definitely listen up. So first thing I want to get into is you nearly walking away from baseball twice. You had a 18 when you were cut from the team, and then had it again at 39 when you had your major injury. So what were some big shaping points of, like, why did you keep going?
So I didn't really have a choice at 18, Nick. I had one of the worst coaches I had ever met. He was a nasty old salty guy. I didn't, quote unquote, get cut. I got thrown off the team. Why'd I get thrown off the team? A friend of mine died. Drunk driving on his 20th birthday. Wrapped his car around a telephone pole back in New York. I was going to school in Massachusetts. This is like 1984, so no cell phones. I left the coach a note saying I had an emergency back home and had to, leave for the weekend. I brought back like page 5 of the New York Post showing this guy's car wrapped around the pole. And the coach told me that I had let my team down by leaving and I should clean out my locker. So I didn't really have a choice. I left baseball angry. The thing I loved my entire life up until then literally was just taken away from me, at the drop of a hat. And truly, I tell you, I did nothing wrong, so I really didn't have a choice. I was depressed. I was angry. I was sad. But, I also knew that I probably wasn't going to be a professional baseball player. I got my kicks other ways. I ended up walking on to the college's football team the next year as a backup free safety, just to kind of, still get some competition out of it. And I had never played football before, but I was pretty athletic. And then, I started working, like an adult type job, but I still played. I played softball, and I got some juice out of playing softball. So it wasn't like I wasn't playing anything. Baseball had been taken away. And it wasn't until probably 20 years later that a buddy of mine said, hey, have you ever heard of New York Yankees fantasy camp? And I truly hadn't. I didn't know what it was. So he explained it to me. We went down there. For the people that don't know what it is, you pay a lot of money to go down there and be a Yankee for a week. All the old Yankees are your coaches. So guys that I looked up to when I was a kid were now coaching me. And, most of the people like down there, seeking autographs, stuff like that. I don't really care about autographs. So I was balling out, dude. I was like 38 years old, I hit a few home runs, like, 375, 390, down at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. And, the Yankee coach is going, who are you, man? Like, what's your deal? And I said, I'm nobody from New York. Like, I'm nobody. And long story short, I went back the next year, and then I started playing men's baseball, and then I got hurt, and I tore my labrum and ripped the biceps tendon off of my throwing shoulder. I was a left side infielder, third base and shortstop, and a pitcher. And every orthopedist said, no, like, we're not doing this surgery to a 39-year-old. Like, we don't, really fix aging athletes. And, I said, that's horseshit, man. I have so much more to do. And I begged this surgeon, Dr. Martin Levy. I said, please do it. I'll do whatever you tell me. I'll rehab, like, whatever. And later on, I worked my butt off to get back onto the field. And a year and a half, 2 years later, I was drafted to go over to Israel, and I was drafted as a player coach for that year.
See, and it's funny because like there's much smaller things that have stopped people from playing sports. And so the fact that you were like, okay, like you had a really crappy situation at 18 that happened, and unfortunately a very crappy person that you were around, even that you had to, again, you were kicked off the team for something that was genuinely like that was reasonable. How do you deal with that mentally, like in that situation, and then with the injury, like how do you like continue to find ways, like you're like, all right, well, I'm going to play football now, and then I'm going to do softball, and I'm going to do the things.
Uh, Nick, everybody's different. I will clearly tell you that almost 60 years old, first of all, I'm still playing. And now I've had a full knee replacement, a full hip replacement, and I'm still playing. I never let somebody else's decision define who I was or who I am. And I also never let baseball define me. I'm more than just a player or a coach. I'm a dad, and now I'm a granddad, and I'm a mentor to hundreds and hundreds of kids that I work with. So for me, it was always take the negative, turn it into a positive. Like, you have two choices, right? You can quit or you could just work your ass off. And for me, quitting was just never an option. And, those are the things I tried to instill into my own children, which I did. And now I do with all the other athletes. Like, quitting is easy, but winners don't quit. If I fail, I just need to go back to the drawing board and figure stuff out again. I never let a game or a strikeout or a great play define me. I think I found different love in the game, Nick. For me, it was the people, the camaraderie, playing for my brothers in the dugout, enjoying the friendship. That for me was my therapy. Being around people that were like-minded and wanted to achieve goals together and put their egos aside, for me, was so much greater than my personal success or failure. So I never let things, and it's just been me my whole life. I mean, I guess I'm thankful for that, that I've just never let myself get too up or too down, and just figure out another way to go to the drawing board.
That's really good. And you touch on one of the things that I want to unpack a little bit too is, a lot of athletes, they do wrap their identity into the sport or into trying to accomplish a certain thing, becoming D1, going pro, whatever. And then when they do hang up the cleats, it's like, okay, now what? Like, they and some of them unfortunately go all sorts of negative ways. Some of them turn it positive. But you also talk about this all-in mentality and this way of like, and it sounds like a lot of it comes from that team approach of like looking at beyond yourself. But how do you balance the not tying your identity to it, but also going all in on it?
So, again, I lost my dad when I was 11, and baseball was always more than wins or losses. They were people that cared about me, and I learned a lot of great life lessons early on. So for me, it was just kind of second nature. Get guys to believe in a common goal. If guys can believe in a common goal and put their own identity and egos aside, then we can succeed or fail together, right? And whether it was as a player or, honestly, incredibly proud to have been, Israel's Olympic head coach. Israel was looked upon as the Jamaican bobsled team of baseball.
Yeah.
And nobody took us seriously except us. And we believed, we got the guys to believe that we could do this. But it wasn't me. It was we. It was always us. And when guys start to believe in the next guy and the next guy to just do their jobs, then there's no stopping anybody. And, again, we went on to do things that, Israel baseball really, truly probably never should have done. As far as the identification, I've always just known, and my perspective has just been great. I know it has from this standpoint. Win or lose, the sun comes up tomorrow. Win or lose, my children love me. My wife loves me. Now I have grandchildren that love me. So there's no game that can supersede that. This isn't war. People aren't dying. We win or we lose. And then we get a chance to win or lose again tomorrow. I'm not being killed by doing this. But I go back to the all-in. My kids are very successful. But I'm more proud that they're great human beings. My older son pitched at Bucknell University. He's an incredibly successful lawyer. My daughter pitched for NYU. She's a few months away from being a nurse practitioner, and she works in pediatric oncology, okay, kids with cancer. My younger son was a psychology major, and he's working for a mental health company, and he's going back to get a coaching certificate to help kids with mental health. I don't care what you do, be the best. And that is what I've instilled in everybody around me. I don't care if you're a sanitation worker, dude, be the best at your job. If you're flipping burgers at McDonald's, take pride in what you do. If you're pumping gas, be the best at it. You know, like to me, there's no excuse. It goes back to that whole Derek Jeter. I may not have the most talent, but man, you're not going to outwork me.
There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I want to highlight for listeners, like, if you didn't take notes there, write down these three things, which is we, belief, and be the best. So those were like three core points that you just talked about right there. And I mean, when you look at the successful teams, you know, again, it's not like, it's like Tom Brady taking a pay cut so that he could have better linemen, you know. It's like things like that, you know. And then on the belief side, it's like, yeah, Jamaican bobsled team, great example of, yeah, there's a lot of belief there, and same with Team Israel. And then, yeah, be the best, like, say, you know, back to Tom Brady, there's plenty of other examples, Otani, of like people who just are like, how can I be the best at what I do?
And never be satisfied, Nick. Like, one of the things I pass on you know, my players, I coach a 17-year-old showcase team trying to get kids placed in colleges. I tell them, you know, at almost 60 years old, if I'm not satisfied where I am, how can you be? Yeah. I want to be a better businessman, a better father, husband, grandfather. I want to be a better player. I'm still working on my game. So if I'm still working, don't tell me you're comfortable and you're done. Because for me, it's kind of like a shark, right? We know, like, when a shark stops moving and getting oxygen into its gills, it dies. So it's got to keep moving. That to me is just, it's such a great example of life, because if we get comfortable, comfortability is the worst thing in this world. My job as a coach is to make you comfortable in uncomfortable situations, right? Then I'm prepared for anything. But yeah, never be satisfied.
I love that. You also hit on Team Israel a little bit there, and I think, you know, even just drawing from some of that experience, I know that athletes listening can really take from this. So, you know, there were definitely teams in that. I mean, number one, you were, like you said, you were the Jamaican bobsled team, so you're already beating teams that you know, shouldn't have, or the other side you shouldn't have beat. But there was also like Team Germany, which I know that alone was a big deal for you. You know, for listeners, school doesn't teach you a lot of things. It does teach you about Israel and Germany. What do you feel like led to you guys being able to beat some of these teams that, again, a lot of people didn't expect you to, and to make it as far as you guys did?
Again, you know, as I talked about, Nick, it's just kind of belief in a common goal. You know, if we're going to do this, we might as well win this whole goddamn thing. You know, it's just like if, you know, we're not here to just have fun and go on vacation. You know, let's go out here and ball out. And the momentum of 2019 pre-Olympics, you know, like, we ran through Bulgaria, we ran through Lithuania. You know, we go to Germany, and we're by far, like, there were 12 teams. We were ranked 12, and we ended up 5th in that pool to get to the Olympic qualifier in Italy. And, you know, when we got to Italy, it was just like, you know, why not? I mean, people looking at us like we're washing our own uniforms. They got like staffs of people traveling with their team and cooks and chefs. And we're just like a bunch of ragtag guys. But I'll tell you what, we were ballers. And all of a sudden, it's like everything else, right? This is like such a big question, and I've thought about this so many times. What comes first, confidence or success? Because once you start having confidence, that kind of leads to success, or did the success lead you to have more confidence in what you were doing? Is it, the chicken or the egg here? And, we just started to believe in one another, and there was, honestly, dude, there was no stopping us. I mean, even in the Olympics, now we beat Mexico. They were like third in the world, but you look at our record, you don't understand, like, we lost on a walk-off in the 10th inning to South Korea, who had won the gold medal the last time. Mm. We lost to the Dominican Republic in the bottom of the ninth. Joey Bautista was struck out on the pitch before. The ump blew this call. Next pitch, he singles up the middle. Like, we weren't just showing up. We were balling, dude. We were playing with the best teams in the world. And again, it just started from believing in one another and buying into, like I said, just a common goal. Yeah. We versus me.
Yeah. And so you mentioned too the confidence coming first, and it ties to a concept that I've been hearing a lot from a guy named Myron Golden, and it's this be, do, have. Rather than most of us where it's like we want to have something to become something, it's the reverse. We need to become the thing, confident to do the thing.
It's, again, and it's not always easy, right? Like how do you instill confidence in somebody? We had a lot of guys, and we had indie ball guys, we had retired MLB guys, but they started to be around other guys that were like them. Like them in mindset, work ethic, skill set. And all of a sudden it went from, man, it would really be cool if, to this is really happening. Right? So yeah. Just, like I said, just getting guys to believe, getting guys to just buy into the process, buy into the work ethic, buy into just doing my job. If we just do our jobs, then we're going to be successful together.
Okay, so that actually makes me think about, dude, I'm totally free-for-alling this at this point. It's like, I'm not even like, I had questions. I'm like, yeah. So you talk about, okay, so the belief part you talk about there, we talked about it earlier. I want to get more into how can athletes actually do these things. So when it comes to the belief thing, how can they themselves instill that belief rather than just relying on coaches?
So for me, in 2025, there is so much more available to players than there were in 1975 or 85, right? Mm-hmm. Let's call it 85 because I was 20 years old. If I need help with something, well, there are hitting coaches, pitching coaches, strength coaches, nutritional guys. I can go on to YouTube. What am I failing at? The one thing that is like, you can't negotiate with hard work. You've got to put work in. I don't care what you want to be good at. You can't cheat the grind, right? You just can't cheat the grind. You can't put in 50% and expect to be an absolute animal and a stud. I preach work so hard in practice that the games are meaningless to you, right? Because I've gotten all of the trials and tribulations out in my practice sessions that all I'm doing is playing baseball. People make so much of a game, an at bat, a situation. No, that's ridiculous. If I practice these things, it's kind of like there are some people, they don't even want to play. They just want to train. Well, to me, that's like doing homework every night, never taking a test. To me, it's ridiculous. But to me, the answer comes in the hard work. Mm-hmm. Sweat equity, man. Like, again, to me, unless you're born into success, you need to work your ass off.
Yeah. Well, even if you are born into success, there's a lot of, you see, like, even the children of former pro athletes, like, you see the difference between the ones who have that sweat equity versus the ones who are like, oh, everything's going to be handed to me.
Absolutely. Listen, I had the pleasure of coaching Jackson Holliday for 2 years when his father played here for the Yankees. And at 13, the kid was special. He could have been like, oh, my dad's Matt Holliday. You'd never know his dad was Matt Holiday. He was the hardest working kid on the team at 13. Mm-hmm. The hardest working kid, first one at the field, last one to leave the field, extra reps. You know, things don't happen by accident, man. Like the kid is special. Don't get me wrong. Genetically, yes, he got help. But his work ethic, he didn't take time off because of who his dad was. He worked harder because of who his dad was. Yeah. So it goes back to hard work.
Definitely. Now let's go to the we part of it, the team aspect of it, of how can athletes become a better teammate?
So much of that starts with the program, the coaches, what they will accept, what they won't accept. You know, not because I'm old, but, you know, if you throw a bat, if you bat flip in the game, I'm going to kill you. You're coming out of the game. Like, it's going to happen one time, and then you're going to be sitting next to me talking to me about why that just happened. Controlling your emotion, being a great teammate. Now, you get to a college program, and there's 36 guys on the roster, 40 guys on the roster currently, and next year it'll be 36 in the NCAA. Well, they only play with 9 guys. So that means there's like 27 guys now. What are you going to do? You're going to sit there and pout? You're going to cry? You're going to complain? Or are you going to be a great teammate? Are you going to go pick up the guy's glove who made the last out and run it out to the field? Are you going to be the guy running out there to have a catch with the right fielder? That's all part of the buy-in to the we. How can I make us better? I talk a lot about getting better every day. Well, if everybody had that mindset, Nick, and everybody tried to get 1% better every day of their lives, after 2-3 months, think about how much better the team is going to be together because everybody's got the same mindset. So for me, that's where the buy-in is. Who do I have around me? Who do I want in my foxhole? What kind of kids are they? Where do they come from? What are their parents like? Those are all things that really help make up the nucleus of a great team.
Yeah, dude. So many good things so far. And it's like, yeah, this is going to be a big one. And I know that you're a baseball guy, but this speaks to every single athlete in general. Like, this speaks to business people. This speaks to any team, really.
Absolutely.
I want to do something that I haven't done before in the podcast, but I think would be really cool with you, given your vast experience, is kind of do a rapid fire of, you know, we talk about these concepts, we talk about some of these bigger things that apply to really everybody, but let's zero in on some specifics. So, you know, what would you give? We're going to hit like 5 different types of people or 5 people in different situations. What would you say to each of these athletes? So the first one being the one who keeps saying that they're getting overlooked.
I tell them to look in the mirror. If you're being overlooked, something's wrong. It's either you're not doing any extra, you're not getting bigger, you're not getting stronger, you're not getting faster. It cannot be that you keep getting overlooked. One of the biggest, you know, I almost call it diseases in this world right now is if my coach doesn't play me, instead of going to work, I just go to a different team. I change my uniform. How about changing your work ethic? How about looking in the mirror and saying, what do I need to do to be better? That to me is just such a pet peeve.
Yes. I you notice I use the keyword saying. All right. Second one is, what would you say to an athlete that has the talent but is not coachable?
I don't want you with me. Period. I don't need cancer in my dugout. I will cut you out like cancer and get rid of you. I will take 9 average players and make them a great team. I don't want one great player that I can't talk to. Just don't want you with me.
Love it. Simple and I mean, honest. Yeah. Third one is, what would you say to an athlete that feels like they're behind and it's too late?
I think if I'm behind and I'm too late, I may have to just take a look and possibly change my goals, right? If my goal was to play at this level and for whatever reason, physically, mentally, I haven't developed or matured yet, I may just have to look to potentially change the level of play that I'm trying to get to. People mature at different stages, like I said, both physically, mentally, emotionally, but, you know, never quit. Just, you know, again, just kind of reconfigure what my goals are.
I love that. And this next one, it's personal because one of my clients has been kind of going through this process, but it also relates to that last one. So I have an athlete who finally made it to varsity and worked his butt off to get there. Going into junior year, started getting regular reps on varsity, started, like starting. And then he got like super sick, has been out for like 5 weeks, and just now got back to school last week, which is basically in the playoffs. What would you tell an athlete in that situation, especially speaking as somebody who's a junior?
Well, I mean, I don't care if he's a junior or freshman, you control the controllables. Being again that this is about the team, I can't expect to have been sick for 5 weeks and then just come back and help my team win or impact the team, right? Somebody had to pick me up for 5 weeks when I was ill. That being said, as a junior, yeah, it sucks. I mean, it just, it sucks but again, it's not over. I got to now take my summer playing time and maximize whatever I can get out of my junior summer to get seen and make some noise so that as I walk into school my senior year, I kind of have a much better understanding of where I am.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
I was ill also, I think in my junior, trying to think back, it was a long time ago. I had mono, and so I was also out for probably 4 weeks or so. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough to walk away and then walk right back in and just think. Baseball especially is the hardest thing. Round ball, round bat, trying to hit it square. Like if I don't swing for a month, I can't expect to walk in here and then again the coach has to win baseball games. It's not about me or you, it's what's best for the team. So it's not an easy solution.
Yeah. When I mean, again, it's like you said, control the controllables, do what you can with what you got, basically.
I mean, that to me is such a big thing. I can't control if it rains. I can't control an umpire's bad calls. I can't control, fields that have, lips and bad hops in them. I can only control me and my mindset. And, I'm gonna give you this, Nick. My favorite 4-letter word in the English dictionary when I am coaching children is next. What I did is already gone. I can't go back to change the outcome. So if I made an error, next play. If I had a bad at bat, next at bat. If I had a great at bat, next at bat, because that great at bat is over. I want another great at bat. Learning to, and I'm not saying there's a big difference between not caring and learning how to deal with being able to just move on and say next, to me is just paramount.
I love that. Like, yeah, I mean that. I don't need to add anything to that. That's just good. That's just good. I mean, I don't need to add anything to what you say. It's just, yeah. Last one here, and this speaks to many athletes, is, everyone wants to go D1, everyone wants to go pro, and you have worked with a lot of athletes who have done it. You already mentioned one of them. What do you tell them, to these athletes who want to go D1 or pro, but don't know where to start?
Okay. I'm going to tell you this. In 2025, college baseball is an absolute cluster. You have the transfer portal, NIL money, guys not making commitments to the commitment they made. I've said this way before this started. Do I want to be number 37 out of 40 guys on a Division I program to say I was in the program? So I get a couple cool T-shirts and a pair of shorts that say, big time school? Or do I want to go to a high academic D3 where I have a chance to play or compete immediately? Every kid that ever laced up cleats and put a glove on their hand wants to be a professional baseball player. Shit, I mean, 60 years old, I still want to be shortstop for the Yankees. But it's not reality. So look for a place that I can grow as a baseball player and as a person and go where academically it's going to lead to life after baseball. There is life after baseball for everybody. I don't care if you're a pro baseball player. If you're a pro baseball player, your career will be over. Then I need to be able to do something with my life afterwards. So marrying those things together. Here's what I say. Less than 7, it's 6.6 or 6.7% of high school baseball players get to play in college at any level. Junior college, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, congratulations. If you make that 7%, congratulations, you're a hell of an athlete. Go where you're going to be happy. Go where you're going to play. Go where you're going to get a great education and just have a great life.
Dude, that's a good way to like wrap things up too, like, because that speaks to everybody. And yeah, any last things you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
I mean, again, for me, I tell people that there are 2 things in life you cannot fake. You cannot fake love and you cannot fake passion. Social media is wonderful and it's also garbage because you don't see the pain, you don't see the trials and tribulations, you only see, the great stuff and the home runs. You don't see the strikeouts. You don't see what it took to get there. You don't see the hard work behind the scenes with the lights off. Live your best life. This journey is a great journey, but we only get one. There is no, going back in time. So like make the most of every day, every opportunity to do something to get better. And I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's sports, like I said, relationships, business, life, work. Don't waste time. Time is the one thing you cannot get back. I can make more money. I can make new friends. I can't get back time. So don't waste it.
Okay, now that is a perfect way to wrap things up. Coach, I just want to thank you so much for hopping on today and just sharing, again, so much value to what these athletes really need to be hearing. And for listeners, real quick, I do want to highlight that Eric does have his own podcast, so check the show notes, check the caption for that. He is on social media. He is on all the things. So again, check those show notes. So for all those details, because you want to put more of what he's got, more of that in his brain. You want to put that in your brain.
Thank you for having me, Nick. This was fun. And again, I appreciate you letting me get to you this week instead of getting tied up last week. So thank you.
No worries. I mean, we had to make this happen. So I'm glad that it worked out the way it did. And I think it's better this way because it was more, we were just grounded and just able to, and then I had some ideas that came in, today versus a week ago. So
awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, so for listeners, again, go check Coach Eric Holtz out, and then also, your teammates can't get better if you don't share this type of stuff with them. So make sure that if you benefit from this, that you also share this episode with them as well. And as always, keep striving for greatness.